Training camp day 7, winners and losers. And should the 49ers just go for it and fix the wide receiver position and go make a massive trade for someone like Terry McLaurin? We will discuss all of it on this episode of OT with BP, Peaconte style, right now. Haven't seen the intro in a little while. I haven't been putting a lot of stuff on this extra channel. Got a lot going on, and I'm always glad when Aponte hits me up and like, man, are we going to stream this week or what? And I'm always like, you know what? We are going to stream this week. We were on his channel last week. We are simulcasting on both of them today. You can find Jason Aponte's work at NinersNation.com. And, of course, the Sprint Right pod as well, doing so many things, been covering the Niners for a very long time. Of course, I am Brian Peacock, Locked On 49ers, Peacock and Williamson NFL show as well. Pumped for a new season of football. We got the Hall of Fame game kicking off, a little Trey Lance versus Hendon Hooker, which, let's be honest, as far as Hall of Fame games go, probably the best you could hope for in some sort of at least somewhat interesting matchup for somewhat early part of the game. By the second quarter, people are going to be tuning out. So you're going to want to watch this live stream and this episode, this Peaconte 49ers content more than the Hall of Fame game. And I know people get excited for it, but it takes about 5 minutes to realize, oh, yeah, this isn't quite real football just yet. But it is football with pads on, which is exciting nonetheless, Jason.
100%. And, I think we're all going to get hit in the feels a little bit if they cut to Harbaugh banging on Trey Lance's pads.
Yeah.
Like we're all just going to kind of like a thug tear is going to come down. But, yeah, you know what? Football on the screen. And for the degenerates like myself, I did take a peek at, what are the parlay odds and what's going on, but, DraftKings, which they're not cutting the check for us. They just stuck to like over under rushing yards and whatever it is. No player props. Let's just put it like that.
Not degenerate style. I mean, that's just regular old stuff right there. There's nothing crazy about that. And I'm sure, and Peaconte's already sipping a victory beverage over there because, the Yankees traded for San Francisco Giants reliever Camilo Doval. So there's that. Maybe a useful catcher in return. We'll see.
Yeah, I mean, that would be what I would say is what the Giants are getting. And with Doval, the Yankees swung and missed, pun intended, on getting and fortifying this rotation. So how do you do that? You got to make the back end better. So you get Doval, you end up with the guy from Pittsburgh, and you package that in with that team. So we'll see. Baseball stuff. That nothing beats the MLB trade deadline. In fact, while watching the Yankee game, the Yankees traded for one of the Rays players who was in the other dugout. He hugged everybody and just walked right on over. Man, you can't beat that.
It's real actual summertime now. We've got tackle football happening and baseball trade deadline. Love it. Loved this time of year when I was a kid. Still love this time of year as an adult, and maybe even more now as an adult. The 49ers making moves. Is there a move the 49ers should make that could potentially really tip the scales? Because as of now, the 49ers bringing in some familiar names, the Equanimous St. Browns and the Quintez Cephases and the Eli Apples, right? And these are players that are familiar, that have started games in the NFL, some of them, and been, quote unquote veterans in the league, but they're not players that the 49ers hope to earn any significant playing time or really even make the roster. They're veteran camp bodies. So they're maybe a little bit more valuable or bigger moves than, say, the literal 90th man on the roster, straight out of college, has no opportunity, no shot, training camp, fodder type of a player, right? And so they're not that. But the 49ers haven't made any really big moves yet. And I want to talk about the idea that you had of Terry McLaurin and what that might actually look like, and if it's even possible. But the 49ers did make a couple of moves today of those veteran varieties. Two names very familiar to me in Amir Abdullah, who was one of my pre-draft crushes, feels like a decade ago. I didn't even know Amir Abdullah was still going, man. And he's kind of like the Upton Stout of running backs when he was coming into the league. He was a guy that's clearly undersized, and he was an outlier for his size, but man, he was tough for his size. He was a really good running back in Nebraska. I thought he was going to be awesome in the NFL, and he's kind of just become a journeyman. He will thump you. He will hit you in pass protection, even though he's only 5'8". He had this awesome short area burst as a runner, even if he didn't have a ton of top speed. But he's a player I always liked and a useful player. So the 49ers adding some depth at running back with the veteran Amir Abdullah. And then Andy Isabella, who was a guy that had no business in the world going ahead of guys like DK Metcalf in the NFL draft in 2020. Is that 2019 NFL draft, right? That was the Brandon and that was the year before Brandon Ayuk. It was the Deebo Samuel year, the DK Metcalf year, Andy Isabella, another short, diminutive, undersized player, a really interesting player. And one of the reasons why he probably hasn't hit in the NFL is he's shaped like a prototype slot receiver, Jason, but he's more of like a deep threat in the way he plays. He's a straight line-ish downfield guy. And it's like, if you're going to draft a straight line-ish downfield guy, there's a dude who's 6'4", 230 that runs 4.3s, and you're going to draft Andy Isabella? What were the Cardinals doing? But, hey, welcome to the San Francisco 49ers. Andy Isabella now has hit that journeyman bouncing around the league mode.
Fun fact about Amir Abdullah, his first touch ever in the NFL was a kickoff return to the crib.
Yeah.
And I remember, like, the hype around him with the Lions and everything. Another fun fact, he played an integral part on one of my fantasy teams because when all those Raiders guys went down in last season, he stepped in and he was the PPR machine. They would literally use him out of the backfield as another receiver. You could plug him in your lineup and get a reliable 10 to 12 points out of him, which is crazy to say in 2024. But yeah, look, the Jordan James injury obviously opens the door. They need another running back, as well. And then the injuries to Cowing, Jennings, which now there's no timetable to return. You've got to line yourself up to be good for these Hall of Fame game, preseason game types, and these are the type of players that'll do it. Does he have a chance to stick? I don't know, but Kyle Shanahan did speak pretty glowingly about him in the press conference saying, hey, we wanted to add some speed here. That sounds like a little bit more than just, somebody that they just brought in to run routes and things like that. Like, when Equanimeous St. Brown came in, we knew that he was going to be here for a cup of coffee and go. That's exactly what happened. They moved him, and they moved off of him, and they signed, these guys. But the Isabella one at least feels a little bit more interesting. It does feel like Kyle Shanahan might want to have some plans for him, or it might have been somebody that he really liked in the draft process.
I wouldn't be shocked at all if he really liked him in the draft process, but it's one of Kyle Shanahan's faults is he always has these guys on the roster because he wants speed on the roster that he doesn't use at all. And their skill set is not something that translates well for Kyle Shanahan. And they're usually kind of weird, undersized speed guys. There's Travis Benjamin and there's, Danny Gray, and they're not like actually big, go get the football players. They're just fast. And so I have my doubts with Andy. Apologies to the Isabella family for listening to this podcast, but I have my doubts that Andy and Isabella is anything more than training camp fodder at this point. And he's had an opportunity to prove what he could be in the NFL. And I don't know. And Kyle Shanahan always has these one of guys. He has this thing in his mind that he needs a speed guy, but then he never uses that speed guy when he gets him. And in my opinion, when he adds a speed guy, that speed guy isn't a very versatile football player. And a lot of times they're undersized and fast. And it just doesn't quite work. And so I'm not sure what the vision is for Kyle Shanahan because he's never utilized that player.
Right. Let's just use Isaiah Nair or, maybe use Jacob Cowing.
Right.
You might have there's Andy Isabella. We got Andy Isabella at home, right? And that's what you can do with Jacob Cowing. But again, he has to be healthy and all those things. But, if I swear to Superman, if Andy Isabella makes this roster and takes any sort of meaningful snaps over Jacob Cowing, over Jordan Watkins, over Isaiah Nair, I'm not going to be very happy. But, Kyle's been known to do that. So, we'll all see. We'll see.
Russell Gage is almost making me a little bit nervous. And again, Russell Gage is a fine player, a depth player, but he's like had a good quote unquote camp, which is like, is he going to roll out there at the starters in week one if there's some injuries, right? And some guys don't get right. By the way, Juwan Jennings, there's no way he's going to take another rep in camp or preseason without a new contract, right? That's the way I feel like this is kind of transitioning to my calf's injured, but it's also a good example of why I should not even be at camp, and I'm just going to kind of hold in the rest of the way. That's the vibe I get from the Juwan Jennings situation.
Yeah, probably. I mean,
it's a smart play.
I think so, but I also do think there is a little bit going on. Oh, he's doing it. Oh no, Harbaugh's punching Lance's pads. Oh no.
Look at Lance. He's so shy, staring at his feet, and he needs that, man. He needs some confidence.
Oh no. All right. Well, man, that really brings back all the feels. Well, you know what? I do think it's twofold. I do think Jennings is probably like, oh, this is what's going on. It's lingering a little bit, but I am a little concerned that it might actually be happening, right? Because he went out there, he caught some passes, then all of a sudden it gets aggravated. I just, it's either way. I don't think anything's gonna happen, and we got a fumble on the first play already. This is sloppy. Um, you just don't know like what's going on, and I think the injury itself is a little. It's stop saying calf then. Like say something else so it could make me feel a little bit better because when the calf flares up the second time, now I'm scared to death.
I mean, don't know because then it'll be like, oh, it's an ACL. Mm-hmm. It's the he was favoring the other side, so then instead of the right calf, it's the left ACL. So I don't want to hear anything else. I want to hear that it's a calf. And look, I don't at this point sit out. I don't care. Getting ready for week 1. That's the important thing for Juwan Jennings. Unless the 49ers want to make a massive move, talk to me about Terry McLaurin. Are you just throwing this out there to throw a grenade at 49ers fans in the middle of the summertime in training camp practice 7? Axel in the chat says John Lynch can reverse the timeline by bringing Terry to SF. Terry McLaurin would be a fantastic fit, and it would also be a sign to me if the 49ers made a huge move like this. It would be a sign, and also if it was coupled with something like with a new Juwan Jennings more than 1 year contract, it would be a sign that they're moving on from Brandon Ayuk and they're just trying to get things right in the meantime. And obviously a contract would have to come with Terry McLaurin if they were to trade for him. What are your thoughts on it? And what would it cost?
Yeah, well, first of all, this is deeply personal for me, right? This is a chance to, like Axel said, reset the timeline.
Yeah,
because
right some wrongs.
It was right there. Can you imagine what this 49ers team would have been in 2019 if they drafted Deebo Samuel and Terry McLaurin? Damn the contract, moving forward, right? Because they both, want to get paid. Damn all that. We're just talking about what it would have looked like if you would have drafted Deebo Samuel and Terry McLaurin instead of Deebo Samuel and Jalen Hurts. So this is deeply personal for me. This is something that on draft day, I yelled, I screamed, I couldn't believe it. He's right there. Why didn't you? Kyle coached the Senior Bowl, saw both of them. Terry really was somebody who was flying under the radar. Now we know Ohio State is wide receiver U, essentially now. But this isn't going to happen. But I will say this. The 49ers will call. How do I know that? The 49ers called about Justin Jefferson when there was absolutely no chance that they were going to get him. Like Minnesota did the right thing and they just hung up the phone and said, yeah, get the hell out of here. But they called, and that's on the record. They called.
Yeah.
There's no way they were going to get Justin Jefferson, but they called. The 49ers will call. If I'm the 49ers, I would offer Juwan Jennings whatever draft pick they want, because they do need people that can play right now. Like, obviously. They need people that can play right now. I would offer Juwan Jennings and say, hey, listen, Adam Peters, you love him, you pay him. And, you roll with Deebo and him and, have fun, but this isn't realistically going to get done. When you look at the timeline, he's not going anywhere. T. Higgins asked for a trade. Deebo Samuel asked for a trade. Brandon Ayuk asked for a trade. Now he asked for a trade. Washington is competing right now. They'll get there. They'll get it done. This is just another negotiation tactic, but my God, man, I would literally lose my mind if the 49ers were able to pull something like this off. But you better believe that they're going to give a call. I will at least say that.
Probably, I'm not going to say 0% chance, but I'm just trying to wrap my brain around because it makes too much sense to make that call and try to make your football team, better if you can. If you didn't want to pay Brandon Ayuk, which you'd be telling us, then why would you want to pay Terry McLaurin? McLaurin's like 5 years older than Ayuk too, or like 4 years maybe older. And Terry McLaurin would be a fantastic fit, but essentially every timeline, and this is what was frustrating about last summer, and this is why I think you don't have to do anything crazy right now if you're the 49ers, because it's a marathon, not a sprint. And I know the wide receiver group looks a little thin right now. And there is some potential for some moves in the summer. I think one of the most important things that happens in these preseason games, and if you are watching these preseason games and you're not sure what to watch as a 49ers fan in, say, Chargers, Lions, try to find somebody who looks good to you that could potentially be available at the end of the summer, that the 49ers might be able to make a, swing a trade for one of those, future 6th-round picks, and then you get a 7th back, one of those things. A guy that's probably not going to make another roster, but the 49ers need to utilize some depth and maybe take a swing at a guy who's young and maybe has some projectable talent. They've done so few moves for top of the roster players at either corner or wide receiver in the summer, which tells me that their plan is to limp along until Brandon Ayuk comes back. And it's really the only plan they have. Now, maybe if there's a more major injury to, probably you would have to be to either Pearsall or Juwan Jennings, you might have to reevaluate that situation. But as of now, I think that's the plan, is to figure it out, hope some of the young guys develop, have enough bodies in training camp to run routes, and roll with Ricky Pearsall and hopefully a healthy Pearsall and Juwan Jennings until Brandon Ayuk comes back. I think that's the plan, and there's been no indication they want to do anything over the top of even the Cowings and Jordan Watkins on the roster. So if they bring in a wide receiver that's competing for more than the 5th or 6th spot, I will be shocked. And I'd probably say the same thing at corner, even though that has looked maybe even more slim and more thin at that corner position group than wide receiver when you see that group without the 2 starters in Diamador Lenore and Renardo Green.
Yeah, and it just doesn't line up with what the 49ers were saying and what they've done this entire offseason. We have to reset the roster. We have to get, touchdown Trey Lance. Oh my God. Don't I just want to say
just a dime from Trey Lance in the end zone to Will Dissly for the touchdown.
I just want to say, the people that don't like Kyle Shanahan and pine for Jim Harbaugh are going to use this first drive touchdown to really piss everybody off. My God, man.
See how confident Trey Lance was on that drive. And look at this play action, just smooth.
To Will Dissly. But can you just see it now? Tomorrow, right? Tomorrow. Why Jim Harbaugh is a better coach than Kyle Shanahan? My think piece. Why Kyle Shanahan can't develop quarterbacks? My opinion, this is the worst. Look, this is the worst case scenario. I'll always root for Trey Lance, but this is the worst case scenario for anybody who just pines for Harbaugh over Kyle. This is it's literally, he's never gonna play. He's never gonna take a snap. But already I can just see it. Anyway. Yeah, the signing of Terry McLaurin and trading for him is not only going to cost you assets, it's going to cost you money, because it's not like Terry McLaurin is going to get here and say, I'm cool with the contract I got. I'll play. So
right.
Think
I'll
about
play
that.
For you guys, but I'm not going to play for them. That's not happening.
Right, 100%. So I don't think anything's like that. I'm obviously having some fun on the internet, and the internet has lost any semblance of having a sense of humor about anything, right? Yeah, you can't. I love the fact that I'm I decided that Terry McLaurin's a Niner. I won't be taking any questions, and people in the comments are rolling their eyes or whatever. And I'm like, Jesus Christ! I don't know what's worse, is that you don't find this funny, or that you don't understand that it's comedy. But both of them are really bad. But yeah, no, this isn't gonna happen.
Let me pose this to you. So, what does if we're talking timelines, what is the timeline? Because the timeline we could have been a Terry McLaurin timeline, could have been a lot of things. If last summer, this time, the 49ers and Steelers had a trade ready, I have eyewitness information from bars in Latrobe, Pennsylvania, where the Pittsburgh Steelers are in training camp, where Mike Tomlin's crushing shots at the bar, hugging Arthur Smith and be like, man, you are going to love the guy we just got. In the past tense, the trade is done. We're trading for Brandon Ayuk. Mike Tomlin, last summer was all the reports where it was oh, it's a done deal. The trade's happening. They had a trade, and Kyle Shanahan squashed it. Brandon Ayuk was going to go to the Steelers. If that would have happened, obviously Niners would have had an extra, 2nd-round pick this offseason. Maybe they draft things differently. Who knows who's a 49er? Maybe it's Terry McLaurin. Maybe they draft a different player at 11. Maybe they trade around in the draft. Maybe Luther Burden is a San Francisco 49er, which is probably the guy I would point to in the draft that Kyle Shanahan might have really, really liked. And they move up from round 2 for that or something like that. It could have gone a lot of directions, right? But now with Brandon Ayuk in tow and the contract, what do the 49ers do if they have decided, shoot, you know what? Maybe we shouldn't have done that contract. Maybe we should have traded him to the Steelers. What's the path there, knowing that next offseason they could potentially cut, move, trade something Brandon Ayuk? Then I think you can't take something like, as crazy as it seems, Terry McLaurin off the table or some other big move, because it's not like they're going to lose Brandon Ayuk in the future and not do anything else. So what would be the big move that coincides with Ayuk? Or do you think the 49ers are actually cool with Ayuk and all these stories about that are overblown? And it's purely, it's like, no, Ayuk, Pearsall, Jennings, that's the group, and we'll have that group for a while.
I think they have to be. And the reason is, if they had their chance, which they did this offseason as well, to move off of Ayuk because people were calling, right? Then they've got to see this through now at this point. And Washington won't take Ayuk. First of all, they're not moving Terry either. So they're being very steadfast when it comes to that. But they can't trade for somebody who's not going to be ready to contribute week 1, let alone somebody that they don't know is going to be able to contribute in the way that Terry is. But they've got to see this Brandon Ayuk thing. They've made their decision. If they had a chance, right? They had a chance this offseason to move him and allow the teams that say, hey, listen, we're willing to take a chance on that knee and that recovery. We're going to take a chance on that without seeing anything. Now, if they go into the season and Ayuk is not the guy, right? Now if you want to move him, it's for nothing, basically. But if he is, then you took a chance and won. So they played chicken right here in this offseason as well. But if they ever had a chance when his value was his highest, it was this offseason, even though it's lower than it was the year before because of the injury, because teams were definitely willing to see about it. And they were willing to take a chance on it because of the reward. So I think they've just got to see it through, and I think that's what they're going to do at this point because, they weren't willing, earlier on this offseason when they had a chance. I'm sure somebody at the combine was like, listen, you're worried about Ayuk? We'll take on the contract. Here's whatever, this package. And the 49ers said no. I mean, unless they weren't getting what they really wanted. But, the 49ers felt good enough about it, or they just didn't like what they were getting to stick with Ayuk.
And the funny thing with that, too, is if you play that forward, okay, Ayuk's hurt now, then he comes back, and then if he still looks like Brandon Ayuk, then it'll be like, oh, now he has value again, and a team might want to give you something. But then the 49ers will be like, well, no, never mind. Now we have Brandon Ayuk, and he's good, so we don't want to trade him. And we actually want more. And so it just keeps going, and you do the dance all over again. So I'm with you, man. It's going to be Ayuk. The question is, are they going to pay Juwan Jennings also long-term to go along with Ayuk? And if they do pay Jennings, does that tell us that maybe Ayuk isn't going to be around long-term either?
Yeah, and that's interesting as well, too, because it's not an apples for apples, comparison in terms of or what you're getting, right? Like they're two very different players. Juwan Jennings did play X, but he doesn't play X like Brandon Ayuk plays X. He plays X as a contested catch, schemed open type of guy. Ayuk is a guy that, yeah, sure, Kyle Shanahan will help scheme him open, but he gets himself open. So it depends on what you're looking for, right? And then all of that depends with Jennings and how they would pair him with an extension with how far Ricky Pearsall's gone, and how good he's going. If he's panned out, then you can probably stomach keeping Jennings around that long, and you have the roles for him. But, I just think too much of Ayuk as a route runner to put all my eggs in the basket with Juwan Jennings when I know there's a guy who can get himself open in a phone booth, and there's a guy who is just tough as nails and is more of a role player than Brandon Ayuk is.
So is Hendon Hooker not playing quarterback for the Lions in this game?
I didn't think so either. I didn't see him. Who was that?
Wow. So this is really unwatchable. Except for Trey Lance getting the ball back, is probably going to march down the field with another score. And so that's going to be a fun headline tomorrow morning. I can't wait for it.
I got another one already, too. So if we want to keep piling on the whole Harbaugh's better than Kyle thing, Harbaugh went for it on 4th and 2, and they scored a touchdown as well, too. So, he goes for it more than Kyle. So it's I'm preparing you for, if not, because I'm not looking at Twitter because I just can't. I'm preparing you for what's coming tomorrow or what's possibly happening right now, and I'm doing the Eminem 8 Mile thing. Remember the end in the battle when he lists all the things about him, so the guy had nothing to say? I'm taking away anything to shock you that's going to be said about what's going on with Harbaugh and Trey Lance in this game and how they're gonna put it over Kyle Shanahan somehow.
All right. Well, update me when Lance completes a pass to a wide receiver, because all I'm seeing is checkdowns to running backs and tight ends.
Yeah. Oh no, you know, here it is too. I'm gonna keep going. Here it is. Jim is making the offense simple enough for him and playing to his strengths. Kyle Shanahan would never, you know, it just rolls off the tongue. And Lance is back out there, 3 for 3, 20 yards and a touchdown. Pistol missed. Let's see. Ooh, yeah, that looked like Trey. Okay.
Little pistol formation.
Yeah, but he
trying to set up the screen. Trying to set up a tight end screen for him.
He went to the wrong side and he ends up throwing it in the ground. So
check down.
I'm just I know, but I'm being funny about it. But I guarantee you, there's gonna be somebody out there that's gonna be pushing this narrative, which is why I'm talking about it.
Unless he does the 5 interception thing, so we'll keep tabs on that one.
Even then, it would be like, oh, he just needs reps.
Hey, Ben Bartch, left guard 1, like he never left. Right, came back to practice, and as we all kind of expected, and Kyle Shanahan said that it wasn't his job to lose, but it clearly is Ben Bartch's job to lose at left guard, and particularly when, and I feel bad because I've kind of crushed Nick Zakelj quite often on Locked On 49ers. Trey Lance down the field.
That was a dot. Yeah, that was a dot. That was a dot. That was a dot. That was a dot.
To a wide receiver.
That was a dot.
Wow.
That looked good. All right. We got to stop watching football, man.
Hall of Fame game, man. Football's back.
Hey, this has got juice, man.
So yeah, Ben Bartch is the left guard.
Yeah.
Period.
Yeah, and you know, Kyle went ahead and he said it's a competition. And for what it's worth, if you read Nick Wagner's report, Zakelj, he said, has looked very good and looked very strong right now, and he looks like he's anchoring much better at the position. He did call it a competition, but I think they're signaling what they want. You know, he comes back off of the injury and he runs right with the ones. He didn't do any one-on-one work also. I want to make sure we make that clear. So, like, no one-on-ones. You know, everybody else had to deal with that. But, yeah, I think, you know, he has time, Zakelj, to try to, you know, get back in this thing. But I think they want Ben Bartch to win this. They want Ben Bartch to win it. And what Ben has to do is he has to stabilize that position because Aaron Banks was so up and down last season. He would have highs and he would have really bad lows. And when Bartch was in there, he was very, very, very solid last year. There's something about him that they like in scheme fit, and they really want him to win it.
Also, according to Nick Wagner of ESPN, love his post-practice reports, Renardo Green, Jacob Cowing, doing some work on the side, appear to be making progress. Timetable Shanahan mentioned this week was leading into the Raiders preseason game for those two guys. So clearly not major injuries there with those two guys, but this was a big camp for Jacob Cowing to potentially wrestle away some chunk of the offense, really. And for him to get hurt like day one of camp on air was really a rough go because he had as much to gain as anybody in this camp because of some of the other injuries and the rest of the wide receiver group.
Yeah, and if you listen to Clay Kubiak, man, he was glowing about Cowing and felt really down, like about, you know, he's been doing everything right and he's looked great, and it's just that injury just popped up. You know, again, all that work, and if you can't play, it doesn't really matter. But yeah, this was, and then you consider Pearsall's not playing. You know, Demarcus Robinson's facing a potential, you know, suspension, which, by the way, they keep glowing about him as well too. You know, Jennings is missing time. This would have been the perfect time for him to step into these reps and take over and gain some confidence. It's just a bummer of how it happened, when it happened, and then all the situations around it. It just would have been a perfect time for him to jump in this.
By the way, what's the asking price at the end of camp from Jim Harbaugh and the Chargers for Jake Moody?
Whatever, just send a bag of balls or something, man. We'll work something out. Yeah,
bag of balls, not sport specific, just some kind of balls.
Yeah, like, or you know what? Just a $50 gift card to Kohl's. You could buy a lot of khakis with
that. You could, yeah. I don't think Harbaugh would give that up, to be honest with you. The Kohl's cash.
What the Kohl's card? Yeah, the Kohl's cash. Not at all. But it is a Wolverine. which made it all the more strange that they didn't go ahead and try to go get Will Johnson like right away. But it's just in my head. I always think anybody who's ever played for him is always there's a chance.
And good on Nick Zakelj if he looks better in this camp. I can't wait to watch him a little bit more in the preseason. It's because I was kind of surprised that he was sticking around the roster. Period. I've never seen much from Zakelj to be like, this guy's even a good backup in the NFL at center or guard. So maybe he's kind of finally clearly there's something they like about him. Smart, tough, whatever it is. He's never just seemed like any sort of impactful football player at all, even as a reserve offensive lineman.
Right, and what's funny is, didn't we have him pegged as like a backup center? Right, like for him to be a guard now, right? Like, I mean, that's why he has to, get stronger and get bigger to play guard. The prototypical way that they have their centers, he fit that. So, maybe that was a little bit of the case. But, look, I trust Nick Wagner. I trust a lot of the people that are saying that he's having a good competition. And, I do think he is competing well. I just think that they want to give it to Barch, who they really like and they're high on. Remember, when they like their guys, they like their guys. If Chris Forrester likes you, then that's it. And I think that's definitely where this is coming from.
Look, that kind of interior offensive line conversation transitions to one of the things I want to talk about on the defensive side of the ball here from camp, and we can get to more specific reports from day 7, today's practice. But CJ West, by all accounts, having an awesome camp, even to the point where it sounds like the offensive linemen are trying to fight him because they can't block him in practice yesterday. I mean, he's a dude, and I love it. He was one of my draft crushes pre-draft. I had him mocked to the 49ers. I was actually kind of shocked that they drafted him, and I just think that he is going to be good right away at the thing the 49ers need him to be good at. And I wouldn't be shocked at all if he's out there as that kind of, knows one technique, 2-eye, interior, stout, can stop the run, defensive tackle, week 1, play 1, first down, starter, 4th-round pick, CJ West.
It just sucks because CJ West is going to be a starter. CJ West has incredible talent, and Drew Moss and Connor Colby are the guys that they keep throwing at him. And these guys are trying to make the team, and it's like, you're making me look bad here, dude. That's what they're frustrated with, and that's why they want to keep fighting them, and everything. But it is good though, to hear about CJ West. Rave reviews for him, and Michael Williams returns to practice as well too. But yeah, it is going to be time for CJ West to most likely start. The person that they're still trying to get going right now, and obviously he hasn't really done any work because of his contract, Alfred Collins. But yeah, it's scary because these guys have to be good because they're the future, and this is the plan for the 49ers this season as well too. But for all intents and purposes right now, both those guys look really good. You just got to get Collins going.
Yeah, got to get Collins going. And that's kind of things like Collins has the bigger upside, but also has probably the lower floor and is not as consistent. But, you could see him maybe developing more pass rush moves, and he's got all this crazy size, and he is so big, and it's not sloppy weight either, which is exciting about Collins. And I think Collins, in so many ways, he reminds me so much of Javon Kinlaw because of how if you put together a highlight package, he'll get fans really excited. But will the consistency be there? We'll be able to keep that pad level. And with CJ West, the pad level is just built in. So being a good run defender right away, I think CJ West will be better. Ultimately, the upside is bigger with Alfred Collins, and that's why he was the 2nd-round pick. But right away, he might not be quite as useful as CJ West potentially, and we'll see. And I can't wait to see those guys in some extended preseason action.
Yeah, that's really what's going to be important about this. And essentially this entire defense is going to be like that. When we're talking about the people that are going to need the reps, there's going to be bumps and bruises. Like, Upton Stout is probably one of the guys that you want to talk about as well too. It feels like he's getting the vote of confidence from coaches, but today he had a tough time against Russell Gage. It sounded like, a bunch of times. Russell Gage making it hard for the rookies and making it hard to get him out of here. Like just somebody who's determined and a professional, more than anything. But the bumps and bruises are going to have to be there, and I think the 49ers understand that. That's the only problem is I think Kyle Shanahan, remember we talked about it, Kyle Shanahan was asked, like, are you going to run these guys out there for bumps and bruises? What if it costs you a game? And he's like, whoa. He's like, I don't know about, like, losing games because of it or anything like that. But I think that
exactly.
it has to happen, though, right? So, yeah.
Speaking of rookies, Upton Stout, one of the big winners of camp, one of the big winners in your winners and losers from day 7 of training camp article. You can find that at NinersNation.com. And it's nice that someone's stepping up and looks good with Diamondor Lenore and Bernardo Green not on the practice field, because apparently I think Nick Wagner, the way he put it, I want to find his exact quote on practice. They had Darrell Luter and Dallas Flowers and Upton Stout as their top three on Thursday. That group has a combined 5 NFL starts, all from Flowers in 2022 and 2023. It helps explain why I didn't have the Niners throwing a single incompletion all day on plays where there wasn't a question of whether the quarterback was sacked first.
Exactly. And I think this is what's important. And the training camp stats thing is just, it's a little overrated, right? Like, it's not everything, but it is something. But when you have, Brock Purdy not missing any passes, people not getting in the way, well, Dallas Flowers and Darrell Luter were out there starting. The only thing I really found interesting about it was Darrell Luter is the first one that's out there today, but it had been Trey Brown when Diamondor Lenore and Green went down. So it was Trey Brown and Dallas Flowers, who Dallas Flowers is loved by Gus Bradley, by the way, so they're going to keep giving him shots. But I think all this really is telling you is what we've kind of been worried about all offseason is your duo is fine. You're great with Green and Lenore. But my God, they've got to play as many games as possible because it's going to get really scary. And it's not so much, they're very top heavy at the outside corner position. They got a lot of nickels. Trey Brown, Upton Stout, those guys are nickels, for sure. But it's going to get scary if one or two of those guys, if they even miss any time, what that looks like. And I think you're starting to see that with the wide receiver group. I think that's really the biggest issue right now during camp is what is this going to look like and what does this depth look like? And it's just really scary right now at corner.
Man, and Bernardo Green was really nice as a rookie, but we're not, necessarily out of the woods as far as him being totally done, fully developed. He is for sure, obviously, no questions, going to be a legit awesome cornerback forever, right? Like, we still don't know a lot about year two players in the NFL. It's just the way it is. And, there's been some times where he's been a little grabby, and I think there's definitely some things he has to work on as a player. So, you look at that group, and they're worse with their starting unit because you lose someone like Charvarius Ward. Really brutal comments from Charvarius Ward, hearing him talk about his year last year. Basically, it was like, man, and like, luckily you could tell he wasn't maybe quite what he was before, but it wasn't so obvious. But he was like, man, I just after the loss of his daughter, he was just devastated. He's like, I don't even care. I don't care if I have a good play right now. I don't care about what's happening on the field. And like, you feel him on that. It's like, dang, man, really rough for him. And I hope, leaving this area where that tragedy happened helps him out for the rest of his career. But just brutal words from Charvarius Ward about where his mindset was last year.
What's interesting is I understand why he would feel that way because of what he was going through. But for a guy, for a league that your resume is tape and the way that you get paid and evaluated is tape, for you to say, I don't care if I lose this rep, and then also want to get paid in the next offseason is kind of counterproductive. But clearly, I think Indianapolis looked at it like, listen, that guy was going through everything last year. We think that, this is, so it didn't really affect him. But it's just interesting that, like, this is why it's always my contention that players never tank. Because what's the point of tanking if you're going to put out bad film and nobody's going to sign you, and then that team that you were on that was really bad, they're going to cut you. So I never understood that. It's just, that was really interesting, but I think it just speaks to the human element, and I don't, I can't blame him because I have no idea how I would react. He said he didn't even want to come back, but you do have to have money, you do have to get paid, so it's just a tough it needed to happen this way. I do think not the funniest thing, but the most interesting thing was him talking about, you're paying people that are not in the building here, I'm here, and you have no intention on paying me. And I thought that was really interesting because he's talking about Trent Williams, Brandon Ayuk, Christian McCaffrey, right? Like, he's like, I'm here, and you don't want to pay me. But he said he knew the writing was on the wall with Lenore and everything as well, too. He said he just was a little disappointed about how it goes, but that's business. But I'm glad that he opened up about it because I'm tired of people acting like everybody just has to take business as business. We're still humans. If I felt, cast aside in any way, how could you not naturally, as a human, feel that, inside you?
It's really easy too, sitting in this chair and you talk about sports all the time. You break it down, and you're looking at statistics, and you treat it like a video game. Sometimes these are human beings, man.
Yeah, for
Important
sure.
to
But it is highlighting, what's going on in the secondary right now, and that's why, people are yelling, "Hey, why haven't you signed Asante Samuel?" Well, you could probably ask 31 other teams why they haven't, because he probably can't pass a physical. I think
or
that's
he
important.
wants a certain amount of. He's like, "Oh, I'm a starter. I want starter money," and teams are like, "Well, we're going to sign you for nothing." He's like, "I'll wait. Maybe somebody has an injury and they'll give me a little bit more." It's one of those things. So like Justin Simmons hasn't signed yet, right? I haven't seen him sign anywhere. Nope. Whether it's the Terry McLaurin trade, if you can make one move, if you could add one guy to one position, who would it be? Would it be any of those positions, or would you be in a spot where you're like, well, let's just wait because the worst might be yet to come? Like you might have to call about an offensive tackle if Trent Williams gets hurt, or you might have to call about a stinking quarterback, God forbid. You might have to call about another position later on in the summer. We haven't even played any preseason games yet.
I think it would probably be Asante Samuel, like at corner. I think, the best case scenario, and this is me living in a fantasy world, like, sometimes the 49ers do, Asante Samuel starts outside, so does Green, you kick Lenoir inside, and now you've really, really fortified this. You have the best nickel corner in the league now. So I think that would be best case scenario, but I do worry about that neck. I do think it's a physical thing. You might be right. He might be sitting around like, if I play this right and somebody gets hurt, I can really, fall into a much bigger contract. But I'd be very worried about those medicals, and then you have to start asking yourself why nobody else is calling if he's so healthy. These landmarks that he was supposed to hit, we haven't heard anything about him being fully medically cleared or anything like that. Usually there's an announcement that he had this and this going on, and now he's fine. None of that's come out. So I think if you want to yell at John Lynch for not signing him and signing Eli Apple, fine. But I think you need to consider why that isn't happening. And I think it's a variable of, or a mixture of all those things.
What's up next for you with training camp reports? What's the next biggest thing? Who are your next winners and losers from your Niners Nation article, Jason?
Yeah, so we did Ben Barch. I had the honorable mention for the offensive line. They did very well with one-on-ones. They were going up against backups. That's fine. That's good and all. I really was enjoying what I was reading about Upton Stout. But Upton Stout on the field was having an issue today. Russell Gage was you have to make sure that you talk about, this and that. Why I put him as a winner is Robert Saleh goes to the podium and he's glowing about him. You have that highlight play of him with the PBU on Ricky Pearsall. That looks really good. You have Kyle Shanahan, even after the day that he had, goes to the press conference and he says, we're not ready to crown him yet, but he's doing a hell of a job. Kyle's not the guy that's giving out, compliments like candy. I think we need to remember who we're talking about here. Like, you almost have to. It's like pulling teeth with Kyle to get, like, even guys that clearly deserve it, right? Like he's not. He's always quick to point out the negatives. Him saying a hell of a job and we're not ready to crown him yet means we're getting close. And when you consider Green and Lenoir not there, he's gonna get all the looks there. So the development is really what you're looking at. So the reason I have him as a winner, even though today wasn't necessarily his best day, is you have all this praise, you have all this opportunity to develop, and then you hear it and you put it all together and you think, man, you know what? This is probably the best thing for him, even if it is a bad situation for the cornerbacks.
With Upton Stout, the thing you have to remember with him, and to be honest with you, there's almost no negatives to Upton Stout's game except for his size. Mm-hmm. If he's 6 feet tall, he'd probably been a first-round pick, and as it was, he was still a late third-round pick. Kyle likes to call those comp thirds, fourth-rounders because it makes him feel better about all the players they've missed on in that area of the draft.
More to the point about how Kyle isn't quick to just give out praise. Like, he's always got to give you the worst side of it.
But Upton Stout and the 49ers told us essentially with the move of drafting a nickel, and as of now, I haven't heard of John Lenoir playing a single rep at nickel. He's an outside corner now. They drafted him and they want him. It would be a huge upset if Upton Stout did not win the nickel job. And then you have to start shuttling John Lenoir back to nickel, or if a different guy's playing nickel. And if Upton Stout's competition is, okay, well, who would be the third corner on the outside if John Lenoir moved inside? well, he's winning that competition outright anyway. So congratulations, Kyle Shanahan, Robert Saleh. They might not crown you. I'm going to crown Upton Stout the starting nickel. So we got 2 starters now amongst the rookies. I'm ready to crown. Or 3 because Michael Williams is obviously going to be the starter at defensive end. It's CJ West and Upton Stout. So they've already hit 3 starters, in my opinion, through the first 7 days of camp.
And, my other winner is Demarcus Robinson, but I obviously told you, why, he's having a great camp, but, that suspension thing kind of throws water on it. But you know what's funny? If I'm reading the tea leaves, if I have my tinfoil hat on, I think we've also found out who's going to be starting next to Fred Warner at linebacker.
Biggest winner of camp? Probably. It's got to be D. Winters.
If the 49ers social team is putting together a highlight reel and posting it and saying it's winter time, he's the starting linebacker. So there you go. So Nick Martin's not going to start, and barring any injury, it's going to be D. Winters week 1. And I have to say, from the reports of his play, obviously you're very excited about that. The biggest thing that I heard was him at the podium saying, I need to learn how to take care of my body. I need to learn how to recover. And you know what? We all know that. But it's very nice to hear you say that, because that is the biggest thing standing in your way. So him understanding that was probably the best thing about it. But yeah, I don't want to get too far ahead of myself. But if the 49ers are posting a video of D. Winters, he's going to start week 1. There's no way that they're going to head and do that.
Yeah, as Mark Twain said, the coldest winter I ever spent was a summer in San Francisco. So there you go. Winters is coming. I could absolutely see the Game of Thrones tie-in, Winters with the blue eyes, little crown on him or something.
Too easy. So there you go. And we all kind of just assumed that, hey, the 49ers are not in love with Winters. They drafted Nick Martin, and he profiles like Dre Greenlaw, and Robert Saleh's got his hands all over this defense. Well, you know what? Winters is making it almost impossible for you to justify putting Martin in, and he, it just feels like he's running away with this thing.
And look, it's 7 days into camp. We haven't seen the preseason games yet. I really want to see both these guys on the field. And it's also a good reminder that it takes guys some time. So, a player is not going to be what they're going to be maximum in their NFL career in their first rookie training camp, right? So, Nick Martin, it might be a situation like Winters where it's year 2, year 3, and he's put on 10 more pounds, and now he's 230 instead of 221, and now he's ready to be your every down linebacker. And clearly the 49ers weren't sold that Winters was going to be the guy and drafted a 3rd rounder. And so now it's up to Nick Martin to take that role away from the now 3rd-year veteran in D. Winters. And I've struggled with this one. Question from Strawberry in the chat. Do you think Nick Martin could be linebacker 3 like Azeez Al-Shaair? And if they could somewhat of a linebacker trio, obviously not the same, then that would be huge. And I don't know that either Winters or Nick Martin is really suited great to be that strong side backer. So I almost feel like they're battling for the weak side spot, and that's it. But I really haven't seen how.
I agree.
I really haven't seen how they've been deployed enough in camp, and I think we'll learn a lot about that in the preseason if they're letting Winters or Martin play that strong side role.
Yeah, redundant skill sets for sure. They're both fighting for the same spot. They've both been envisioned for the same spot.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I agree with that. I think funny enough, I think if it's if it's any linebacker 3 that'll be on the other side, it would probably be. And then again, this will be in base. The 49ers are not going to be in base very much. It's not going to be 3 linebackers on the field very much. Chaz Surratt probably. That's somebody who the 49ers love because Robert Saleh loves him. Maybe it's that special teams ace. His name is eluding me right
Luke
now.
Gifford.
Luke Gifford,
yeah,
and or if you want to go just purely off of name vibe, Stone Blanton. That's Stone's such a very strong name.
It's a strong name, but he's kind of battling Tatum Bethune, I think, as that backup sort of middle linebacker guy, and that's what his skill set was from what I saw him in college. I'm sure any of these guys can play linebacker and could go play that spot, so they're going to keep the best 5 linebackers. And maybe Jalen Graham has an opportunity because he's kind of been that guy all along. It was he was drafted to be more of that Sam strong side linebacker.
Yeah. So yeah, I think the Winters and Martin thing, they're fighting for the same spot. It's kind of it's redundancy right there, and again, it'll probably be somebody like Chaz Surratt, at the 3rd. But again, base defenses is just it's not going to happen really. Like in this league in this day and age, with the amount of I know we watch the 49ers and they never throw on first down, but for the most part, the league has has moved to throwing on first down and using spread out offenses. So yeah, they're never going to be in base really like that. Realistically, it'll just be depth purposes.
What do you think about this one, Jason? Could Kiner, the undrafted rookie running back from Cincinnati, make the roster?
My God, man. Did I see on his spider chart his hand was 0? His hand size?
Oh, did he have small hands? I didn't see that about him. I know he was a little bit squatty from his build, but man, his contact balance, he's not super elusive, but now with the look, and Jordan James was having an awesome camp too. So that's we can't underreport that story of Jordan James potentially getting banged up a little bit, and just it's a battle of attrition at running back, man. And that's why running back value is the way it is. To be honest with you, I think there's a better than not chance that Corey Kiner makes the roster. And I thought that before camp even started.
I would disagree, and here's why. I think Kyle Shanahan is going to be fine with what they have, and if they need to call somebody, Jeff Wilson is half a call away. They did work him out. I just feel like they'll go to the well with one of those guys, right? I think Patrick Taylor would be somebody that they kind of keep around. I think that they would stick around with those guys. So we're gonna do McCaffrey, Garendo, Juszczyk, Jordan James most likely unless he doesn't make it, right? And then you'll have one of those guys piddling around, hey Jeff Wilson, you're on the practice squad. How fast can you get to Santa Clara? Or one of those guys. So I just think it's gonna be tough.
You think they would only carry 3 true tailbacks plus a fullback?
I think they would probably keep 4 with one, one of those guys would be like Patrick Taylor, something like that. They really love Patrick Taylor.
I think that they would in special team. You can't forget about special teams. You're the 4th running back. You got to be able to play on teams, so that's part of it with Patrick Taylor and some other guys. The big question I think will be that decides it is who's the most likely to get claimed off waivers. Would it be the rookie in Kiner? Does he have a nice preseason game where a team's just going to snatch him up? Then you got to keep him. And you can get Jeff Wilson to the practice squad, or that you can get Patrick Taylor maybe to the practice squad, or you feel better about that. Or is it more likely that you would lose Patrick Taylor and you think very highly that you could get Corey Kiner to the practice squad? Then that would probably be your decision.
Yeah, worst case scenario is that Kiner goes crazy in a quarter and has 4 or 5 big runs and everybody and that's the other thing and this is why I don't envy the 49ers and their decisions with the roster, because everyone in the league is watching the 49ers based on their reputation and what they've gotten out of players who have either been undrafted or unheralded, and everyone's looking at them and looking to snatch it. If one of these running backs doesn't make it, let's say Kiner goes out there, the Philadelphia Eagles are gonna pick him up and put him on the practice squad, right? Isn't that by the way, unfortunately Danny Gray just got let go from Super Bowl champion Danny Gray just got let go from the Philadelphia Eagles. Yeah.
Hey, this could go along with your Trey Lance Harbaugh article. Danny Gray got a ring before Kyle Shanahan.
There you go. So did I can't believe I'm gonna say these words. So did Ty Davis Price.
Oh my gosh. Ty Davis Price. I can't wait to see that picture of Ty Davis Price and Danny Gray with their rings like this that they sent to the rest of their 49ers, their old 49ers teammates.
I have a lot of respect for football players, and I would never dare come out of my face. But if I saw Ty Davis Price running around with a Philadelphia Eagles ring, I'd be like, dude, take that off.
Oh, man. Can't wait. Was Cam Latu on the Eagles as well? Where's Cam Latu?
Yeah, he got cut too. I think he's somewhere else now, or he might still be there. I think I don't know, but yeah, Cam Latu.
Did Cam Latu get a ring?
I don't know about that. And Orenberg's got a ring.
Oh my God.
So the Eagles I'm joking, but I'm not joking because we have so many examples. Danny Gray, Orenberg's TDP. I believe, I'm not mistaken. Oh, Trey Sermon, when he got cut, he was on that Super Bowl team as well, too. So, you better believe that if the 49ers let one of those guys go, they're going to end up landing on the Eagles practice squad.
Well, Jason, I know you got to get back to this Hall of Fame game and watch your guy, Isaac Tesla, who you have stock of in your dynasty leagues. I hope I'm not spilling any beans for folks that are watching this that are in your dynasty leagues with you.
No, it's too late. I already got him. So
Okay.
like you're cooked. You let him fall to me. Like like letting him fall to me is crazy. First of all, you have to have a mixture of player watching and understanding vibes and understanding names. Isaac Tesla, you have to draft a guy like that.
Yeah.
What are you like letting him slide for? Like who cares? Watching the tape is so overrated, man. Like sometimes
Well,
just
dude,
draft
yeah,
for
and
vibes.
the guy who's awesome on tape, it just doesn't work out, goes to a bad spot, gets hurt, and then some other guy just has an awesome opportunity. And I think that there are some guys that have some opportunities. Tesla is one. I think on the other side, it's Trey Harris
Trey Harris.
for the
Yeah, man.
Chargers.
I love Trey Harris, man. I just worry that that you know what that really can unlock that Chargers offense because he's that X that can really separate and that really can open things up for Herbert because we are all of us we're all Greg Roman, watchers. We understand what he's done and how the offense is going to run. You're going to run the football 800 times. You're going to throw it to your tight ends. Having that true actual X that can separate and get open like Trey Harris, that really could unlock that offense and really give Justin Herbert somebody to throw the football to because Quentin Johnson, he's not playing right now, but I heard he just dropped his Gatorade. So, there's a need there for those Chargers wide receivers.
There you go. Thanks to everybody for tuning in with us. Of course, you can find me doing Locked On 49ers daily. In fact, I'll be going live with Croc here in a couple hours, probably after this Hall of Fame game or so, and talking more about San Francisco 49ers training camp notes. We'll be going live to end the week here in our Thursday evening episode, Friday morning for your traveling and on your way to work audio pleasure as well. And then Peacock and Williamson, NFL Show Daily. Jason, find all his stuff, especially these post-training camp articles at NinersNation. Sprint Right Pod at Jason Aponte 2103. If you're wondering what the numbers are, 2,103 is the number of gift baskets that Derek Jeter sent ladies morning after. That's where that number comes from.
Acknowledge my GOAT. Yes, absolutely. Acknowledge.
And have fun with Camilo Duvall in New York there. It's going to be fun.
Yeah, well, thanks, man. I mean, baseball's not a real sport, but hey, I've only got one more month of like being able to watch it, before it's really time to get down to business with football. But yeah.
Preseason games for the Niners right around the corner. We got real actual football, and of course we'll be here covering it for you. Talk to you next time. OT with BP. Peaconte out.